you should know what to stress about and what to not be stressing about.
Yeah.
And if you don't have that organized in your head, then everything can feel stressful.
Yeah, I've had moments like that where I worry over everything.
Yeah.
About even like to my ability, to payment, to time management. I know I can do it, but all of a sudden my brain gets like clogged of all these things. And then I have to, the way that I have to deal with it at the moment is just to write it down and prioritize and get it out of my head and on paper. And then.
Yeah, that's perfect. That was going to be my response. So to that, and maybe we just address that question. It wasn't on your list of questions, but let me just give you a little nugget on that. There's a book called How to Stop Worrying and Start Living. Do you know this book?
Okay. No, I haven't. No.
It's by Dale Carnegie, and Dale Carnegie wrote How to Win Friends and Influence People, which was one of the very first self-help books ever written 100 years ago. Anyway, he wrote another book called How to Stop Worrying and Start Living. And when we're burdened and stressed with a million different things, his technique, well, he has 100 techniques in the book, but one of them that I've really latched onto and that has helped me a lot is to write everything down first, get it out of your head, and then look at the list and come to terms with what is the worst possible thing that can happen if this happens or doesn't happen. So the thing we're worrying about, what is the worst possible thing that can happen? And what you'll find on your list is that oftentimes the worst possible thing that can happen isn't so bad as what we make it out to be in our kind of subconscious. So you look at it and you can say, okay, this client is mad at me. This project is over budget. This designer that I hired is messing up on this, whatever. You know, you'd write down these things, and all these things are burdening you and stressing you out. But if you look at it and you say, okay, well, what's the worst thing that can happen? Well, the client will leave and won't pay me. Well, how much do I lose? How much money do I really lose if they do that? And you look at it and you'll say, oh, you know what? It's really not that much money. It's $1,200 or $1,500 or $800 or whatever it might be. And you come to terms with the fact that that's the worst possible thing. And you can say to yourself, that's not so bad. I can live with that if that happens. And it kind of helps you alleviate the stress a little bit. So that's just a little thought, and you're most of the way there on taking things, getting it out of your head and onto paper. That's the very, very first step. But then come to terms with what is the worst possible thing that can happen here, and come with that. That's a good way to think about it. The way that I do it, like I say, is I try and prioritize what I can do, but to look at its worst case scenario, that's a completely different perception of what I've been doing. But that's a really good really good way of thinking about it. Anyway, it helps me. So I'll throw that. Sometimes I live in worst case scenario. I'm like, the worst possible thing here. And it's usually not so bad if you really take it out and make it tangible.